You're just a click away from like one or two opportunities, like literally today. And on this episode, my guest, Monica Stewart, is going to share how you can go about getting those one or two opportunities simply from near bounding. Never heard of that? Well, you better listen to this episode. Hey, everyone. Welcome to another great episode of the Sales Evangelist Podcast. I'm your host, Donald C. Kelly, the Sales Evangelist. And I'm so excited for another great episode. I'm so excited to be here with you today. My guest today is Monica Stewart. Monica is going to share with you this idea of how you can go about getting one or two more opportunities in your pipeline today, or at least this week, from the near bounding concept. It's a powerful principle. It's a non-traditional approach. Many of us have heard about outbound. Many of us have heard about inbound, but we've not necessarily explored this idea. Now, it's not revolutionary, something that's new. This idea has been around for ages, actually. It's probably it was way before inbound and outbound. The concept, though, is something that many of us don't apply or don't know how to do it. Monica is going to share how she's doing it, how she's helping clients with it. If this is your first time listening to our podcast, please consider subscribing. What we'll do at that point is notify you every time we have a really great piece of content like today, so you can best be in line to dissect that and consume it. As always, our show is simple. We want you to 3 to 5x your sales pipeline or help you to close twice as many deals. So all of our content fall in those categories. Now, speaking about pipeline, we have a LinkedIn prospecting course that many people have been asking more about, how they can take advantage of LinkedIn. Our promise with that is that if you go through our course, you should be getting at least 3 appointments by the end of the week. So if you're using our stuff, and you're using Monica's things, you shouldn't be succeeding as a sales rep. I want you to check it out. And it doesn't matter what type of economic climate we're in. LinkedIn is a powerful platform, and it actually probably will be more effective right now. Check out this episode, then check out our content, thesalesevangelist.com/LinkedIn, and see if it can benefit you. As we dive in, you get a chance to learn about Monica. You get a chance to hear about what she does, and you'll see how that translates into this concept so well. Monica, welcome to the show.
So great to be on the show. Thank you so much for having me.
Of course, I'm really looking forward to the conversation and discussion that we're going to have a hand around, some of these non-traditional ways for us to build a pipeline. I bragged about you a little bit in a teaser.
Love it.
If you don't mind taking a second, though, and go deeper, tell us a little bit more about what you do on a day-to-day basis. What do you do right now, Monica?
Yeah, absolutely. So I am spending all of my time these days helping startup founders grow and scale their sales organization in a sustainable, repeatable way. So, if you're like, hey, we just hired 30 reps and we need to train them on discovery real quick, I'm not your girl. I don't really get involved in those types of situations. Yeah, exactly. They can go to you. They can go to Leslie Vanetz. What I do, the people that I am helping are people who have built a really good business that has grown up to a certain point and they don't know how to get past that point. So, maybe they came from an industry, started a company in that industry, and they got to like 2 or 3 million through a combination of, their investor networks, people that they were able to get in front of. And they have a solid foundation for what they're doing. And they're like, how do we get to 5? How do we get to 10? How do we get venture ready? How do we turn this into a business that can continue to grow and be sustained on its own? And so that's what I'm helping people with.
That's dope. Congratulations on that and the success you're seeing with it. And I think this is why it makes sense for you to be able to be the subject matter expert with us on this topic. You see a wide range of stuff. And you started telling me a story. Sorry for the noise there, everyone. You started telling me a story when you shared about your clients, what they were doing. Some of your clients were doing some non-traditional ways, and instead of like going out just like building up a huge sales force and doing a repeatable revenue standpoint. Can you tell me that story, and then that can probably ease into our discussion?
Yeah, 100%. So this goes all the way back to, I would say, like way pre-pandemic days. This was like the golden age of sales engagement platforms, and everybody was just loving Outreach and loving SalesLoft and like loving all the meetings that they were booking with cold outbound. And as a consultant, I was spending a lot of time teaching people how to do cold outbound well and how to do personalization and all of that. And I had a client that was just building their company in a really, really efficient way. They wanted to get to a certain point in revenue, and then they wanted wanted to sell their company as quickly as possible and they wanted to exit. And so as part of their strategy, they were only focusing on building a partnership network and then bringing in customers. All of their leads came in through these various partners that they were working with. And most of them were services partners, actually. And one of the things that I was pushing the CEO on a lot, I would say, in our first 6 months of working together is I was like, dude, you know exactly who your ICP is. You have a list of all the companies you want to sell to. He did. He had a spreadsheet. And every time that we closed one, he'd like cross it off the spreadsheet. He's like, okay, 60 down, 140 to go. And I'm like, you know who all of these people are, and they're really easy to get to. Why aren't you doing outbound? Everyone else is doing it. It's great. And after a while, I started to see the wisdom of what he was doing, because he was bringing on Fortune 500 companies with a very short sales cycle, because they were already coming in with some trust, right? And some context on the conversation that they were having. It wasn't the first call was not a cold conversation, and his customer acquisition cost was so low. He had already built a really impressive business with no salespeople, just him and
Crazy.
some account managers. Yeah, it was really crazy. And then he hired an SDR, and then it kind of went from there. But I think that was the first time that my thinking really changed about how you can acquire customers in enterprise SaaS. I do have some experience in product-led growth companies. I worked at Trello back in the day, but most of my experience is in, enterprise SaaS, which is a pretty well-known selling motion. And I'm so glad that I was able to kind of go through that with that company several years ago, because of course now fast forward to 2023, 2024, the selling environment is completely different. And now everybody's talking about cold outbound effectiveness is way down. I think I saw something today that said that success rates on cold calls right now are like 2%.
Dang. Yeah.
I know, right? Dang. And it's like, imagine that you're an SDR coming into the workforce today. You're onboarded remotely. You're sitting at home making cold calls from like your bedroom while your roommates are making lunch in the kitchen, and you're getting a 2% success rate. Like, that is just really fucking hard, man. So a lot of people are thinking like, we need to also cut down on costs on our sales team. There's got to be a better way. And so I love that more companies are talking about some of these kinds of other strategies. And since then, I've actually helped a lot of my clients be successful with a couple of other ways that you can grow in the early stages and get to 5 or 10 million in revenue without scaling up an outbound engine.
What is that? Why do you feel it's getting so much harder these days? That number is that 2%. With your ear to the ground, I have my theories as well, but I'd love to hear yours.
It's such a good question. I think there's a couple of different factors that are contributing to this. I think that in the last 5 to 7 years, people have been over hiring and under training salespeople, even before the pandemic. And then I think that this only accelerated in 2021, 2022. The other thing is that I do think that remote work for entry-level salespeople has something to do with this. Training is one thing, and I don't think there's ever been as much information available as there is today about how to do sales correctly and cold calling techniques to use. There are people who have fabulous TikToks where they're cold calling live every day, and you can learn from them. But I'm seeing a lot of fragmentation on these teams where all of the team members are following their own influencers and they're getting their own tips, and they're kind of learning how to sell in the way that they want to learn how to sell, because no matter what path you want to follow, you're going to be able to find somebody that's telling you that that's the right way to do it, and they're going to be giving you examples of that. And that doesn't necessarily mean that those techniques are even good. And it also doesn't mean that those are the right techniques for your market and for your buyers and for the way that you need to sell for your company. And so I really have a lot of empathy for sales leaders right now that are trying to kind of corral everybody and harmonize their team around a common vision and a common selling methodology, when there's a lot of market forces that are leading reps to not do that. And so, when people talk about the waning effectiveness of outbound, they usually talk about AI. They talk about the explosion of sales engagement platforms and how easy it's made how how easy it is now to just blast out emails to tons of people, and I think that that's also true. But I also think that kind of like opening the Pandora's box of, basically like salespeople training themselves is certainly has something to do with it. I think the volume has increased, and I also think that the overall quality of a lot of the messaging has decreased.
I love this. Put some notes down here. The idea of the salespeople are training themselves, and again, great kudos to them for being willing to do that. And
Yeah.
that goes back to this idea of disparity, right? Where you have so many people doing stuff so many different ways.
hmm
Um,
I see so many, I mean, obviously I'm on LinkedIn a ton, and I see so many selling tips that are like really things for B2C that people are trying to bring into B2B. And it's like, well, yes, that might work. And yes, it was in Robert Cialdini's book like 20 years ago. But, and this might work for you if you're trying to sell something at like a display in a supermarket or whatever. But is that going to work with your CIO at a Fortune 500 company? I don't know, maybe not.
Yeah, no, you need to do a little bit different on that. So let's go through your non-traditional routes, the non-traditional methods that you see people are doing right now to build pipeline. Can we dive into those?
Yeah, 100%. So the three things that I'm seeing work for people right now are partnerships, working with influencers, and not necessarily in the way that you might think. And then, of course, Nearbound, which has been a super hot topic since last year, and I think will only continue to be more so. And the reason that I'm seeing people do this is, again, going back to that first example, your customer acquisition costs um, are a lot lower once you get these channels really, really flowing. And especially if you're selling mid-market to enterprise, it can dramatically shorten your sales cycle.
Yeah, I'm excited for it. Let's dive into the first one.
Cool. Yeah, so starting with partnerships, I'd say that this is probably the first place that people go. I hear so many of my clients being like, "Oh man, like, we need to get more leads in, so we just signed a deal with 10 different partners and we're so excited because we just can't wait for these leads to like start flooding into our HubSpot." And that's not really the way that it works. So, what I would say is working right now in partnerships is A, start small. And that means, first of all, maybe look at some of the smaller players in your industry before you go straight to, the really big guys, people that you can really form like an equal partnership with. And then also start small in terms of your program. Um, so don't go and sign 10 partnership agreements and then wait for the leads to flood in. Go and sign 1 to 3 partnership agreements where you feel that you can also add something to that relationship. And then use that as almost like a pilot for your partnership program, and then understand what it is that they need from you in order to have trust in you as a partner, and then understand what you need to be doing on your end in order to really service them and to maximize the leads that they send you. So be really intentional about those relationships, and also be creative. So it could be a service provider in your industry. It could be a technology provider in your industry. It could be an industry association. It could even be a company that does something that's a little bit similar to what you do, but maybe serves like a slightly different group of people. So just as an example of this, I have somebody that I'm partnering with right now in my own business who focuses on founders that are trying to find product market fit. And I don't work with those people, but I do get a lot of people asking me about that, and it's not something that I do. And he gets a lot of people that are ready for what I do, and so we work together really well. Um, and then, the third thing that you want to think about here is like really put in the work. In order for this to really work at your company, you have to make it somebody's job. What you don't
What do you
want
mean
to,
by that?
Yep.
Like make it somebody.
So what you don't want to do is, let's say that you have a team of 5 AEs and you've just brought on a couple of new partners, and you're like, "Hey, Donald, so in addition to meeting your quota and running all of your sales calls and doing all of the things that you already do, you're also going to be working with this partner. And so, if they send us any potential deals, they're going to go to you, and then you're in charge of that partnership now. And you've never done this before, right? Like you've never run any kind of partnership relationship. You also had like a full job already.
Hmm.
And I'm not providing you any additional guidance in this scenario that is going to help you um, really understand how to operationalize this new responsibility that you've been given. And so that's kind of a way to make sure that your new partnership relationships just die on the vine. Um,
That's what I've seen happen in the
yeah.
past. That's why I wanted you to go deeper on that concept there, because yeah, I've seen that where it's like, yeah, we have a new partner, somebody who gets excited on day one, but literally, it's like I look at it and it seems like what do you call it, like threads by Instagram, right? One day it goes really high, then the next day it drops off really low.
Do-do-do-do. Yeah, exactly. Because nobody
Um,
nurtured it. Yeah,
yeah,
100%. And like you have to assume that, they also have a bunch of other partners that they're working with. If they don't, that's probably not a good sign. And so if they
yeah.
have a bunch of other partners, that means that you're like you getting that relationship started is just the beginning. You now also have to fight for attention with all of the other people that they could potentially send business to. And you have to really prove at every level of their organization that you're going to make them look really good.
So how do you get to the point to incentivize those partners though? Because I go back to what you said. If they have a bunch of
Hmm.
people that are working with, is it just going to be the bidder that gives me the most money? Easier for me to help out, to sell. How do you help to determine or help to keep the partners motivated, so to speak?
That's such a good question. Um, well, so the first answer is, of course, you need to understand what motivates them, right?
Mm,
Usually it's not just money, although understanding how your business fits in with the other partners that they work with is usually a really good thing to do. So, for example, if you sell a $30,000 a year solution, and some of the other companies that they work with sell a solution that's like $500,000 a year, then that's a really good thing to know because there might be an additional conversation that you need to have about how you can still make it worthwhile for them. Because if you have like a referral fee or a percentage model, then you're always going to come out on the losing side of that equation. Typically, what you want to look for is a partner where you serve a really specific need for their customer base that is additive to their existing partner portfolio. And then what you want to do is you just want to make it really easy for everybody at that company to understand what that unique need is that you're serving, how to recognize it, and when to send people to you. So back when I was at Scaled, we partnered with SalesLoft, and we were doing this actually before they really had an official partner program. We were one of the first companies to get SalesLoft certified once they launched it. But before that, I would spend um, about 3 days every month in their office. I would just fly to Atlanta and work out of their office for half of the week. And I would have all my friends with the sales reps. I would go and like take them out for coffee, go to their happy hour with them, take them out to lunch, sit at their desk and go through their pipeline and really just like go through all of their deals and be like, who do you have? Who do you have? Who do you have? And then every company that we worked with that was a customer of SalesLoft, we would do a huge thing of feeding back to them what the experience with that customer was and what the benefit was that they got from working with us, so that people would be able to see the success stories, and it was sort of like a positive affirmation loop.
yeah,
Otherwise, they would have just forgotten about us.
love it. And what I like about that is the total immersion. What you guys were doing, like you said, somebody was dedicated, so that was their job, and to be able to help. But how does this feed the rest of the team? If I'm IC, I may not be able to get that level of a partnership with someone. How can I be able to still have partners? Or is this something that's solely left to the sales leader standpoint to be able to establish?
Mm, great question. So I mean, I would say that this is something that should be driven from the CEO sales leader level. If you want to talk about, things that you can do as an IC, Nearbound is one of the concepts that I think is really, really, really exciting right now. And I mean, candidly, this is something that's been happening for a really long time. I was talking with Scott Leese about this on his podcast a couple of months ago. And, when we talk about nearbound, people are like, what is nearbound? What is this? How is it going to work? Is it going to work for my company? Guys, if you go back and you look at the way that people have been selling for decades, literally like before the internet, or probably the way that they're still selling at big companies like Microsoft and Oracle and ADP, it is literally year round. They're
Yep.
like, they're going out, they're networking, they're creating these relationships, they're asking for referrals, they're stopping by the office, they're taking people to golf, et cetera, et cetera. The difference is that now, A, most people aren't working in the office anymore, and B, we have a generational shift. So now we're talking about people who are, at the more senior end, maybe Gen X, millennials, even people who are older Gen Zers going into some positions of leadership and authority. And these people don't want to hang out with a salesperson. They want to do everything, they just want to have a Zoom call and be done with it and then go walk their dog.
Yeah.
And so that's why you see this more relationship-based selling model shifting to social platforms like LinkedIn.
Hmm.
But it's really something that salespeople have been doing for a really long time. Like if you go back and you read Zig Ziglar, The Art of the Close, he's
Yep.
literally talking about analog nearbound. Um, and so I think that this is something that's really effective. So just so that everyone who's listening knows, when we talk about nearbound, what we're talking about is tapping into the power of your network to build your pipeline, and to bring customers to your business. And so when we talk about your network could be literally anybody. Your network is your former coworkers. Your network is people that your kids are in school with. Your network is people that you do triathlons with. Your network is people that you're connected to on LinkedIn, that you go to conferences with, that you're in Pavilion with, whatever it is. Um, and so I do think that this is the most effective when it's a strategy that is kind of orchestrated company wide, but anybody can do it. And I think what's really powerful about Nearbound, and what I believe is the right way to think about it, is that it doesn't have to be a CXO to CXO relationship, which is usually what people think of. They're like, how can I get to the CEO or the CMO of the company that I want to sell to? Because that's the person that's my decision maker, and that's who I want to really get the meeting with at the end of the day. But if you look at the way that your deals are structured, like that's not the way that most of your deals are happening. You're probably talking to like 10 different people at the company at all different levels, and then eventually you get to where you need to go. And you can do the same thing with Nearbound. So if you're an SDR and you know other SDRs that work at the companies that you want to get meetings with, call them. Send them a DM on LinkedIn, send them a text message, send them a DM on Instagram, however it is that you communicate. And don't send them a DM being like, hey, can you get me a meeting with your CMO? What's her email? Like, just reach out to them and have a conversation with them and get as much information that you can about what's going on at their company, and you will get some really good intel. Every single person at that company knows more about what's going on at that company than you do at this moment. They are in the all hands. They get internal communications that you don't know about. They know what the general company strategy is. They might even know something about the way that that organization works, like who has more influence, who's talking to who might be leaving the company soon. Who takes calls, who doesn't take calls, what's the best way to reach them, who's in the office more. So, you can totally start there. And then if you're doing this kind of on a company level, then I would say that reflects across every part of your organization. So, you can have your CEO reach out to the CEO, you can have your salespeople reach out to the salespeople to gather information and try to get referrals within the company. What I would say is stick within your ICP, because there can be dead ends. So when I was working at Trello in the enterprise team, We only really sold to people who were already using Trello. And of course, we had a huge variety of use cases. You can use Trello for anything from like planning your Burning Man camp to like, running a multi-million-dollar PR strategy. But what we found is that the people that were really willing to pay for Trello and that were our best enterprise customers were people in a couple of different departments. And it was like marketing, project management, and sales. Most of our users, we had a ton of users that were in engineering. Um, why did we not sell to those people? Because they don't really like to buy stuff and they don't really want to talk to salespeople. And oftentimes they were fully remote and they didn't really know anybody else in the company. And so we wasted a lot of time having conversations with people in engineering that were really happy to talk to us because they really loved our product, but they actually they could get us exactly nowhere within the org, and they didn't really have any information about what was going on, and they didn't really talk to people on other teams. And so, there is a limit to that. I would say, stay within the world of the people that you want to talk to. If you need to talk to marketing, then probably like don't try to network with people in supply chain because the chances that they'll know someone in the marketing org is pretty low. So, you should be a little bit intentional about it, but be creative in the way that you reach out. And then one other thing that I have seen people have a lot of success with here is like consider your customers network.
Mm.
So, it's a pretty typical thing in sales to have, you have your alerts set up in Sales Nav when someone moves to a new org and then you sell to them at that new org. But you can do the same thing in the reverse, right? So, do you have somebody that is your customer now that used to work at a company that you would also like to work with? Or
Yeah.
maybe they're in an industry association with them, or maybe they're just friends with them because they did a podcast together or something like that.
Now we're friends.
Now we're friends. Yeah.
Yeah. No, I really like the idea of that reversal. Anyone that's from a company now that used to be in a company
Hmm.
that you can go back into, and I think go back to what you said it was about a little bit ago was the analog. Like Zig talked about this in the analog version
Hmm.
back in the days, and we can still do that same concept now. And I feel like like trends just keep repeating themselves
Hmm.
because literally it worked back then, but we got further with the internet age. Can send stuff in masses, and we went into the mass production. But it's still like now, let's go back to how can we be more effective, and people want that bond, that connection, like that trust. If I trust that you're an authority figure in your space, in your niche, and you have insights, I want to get that. I want to get that insight. I want to be able to
Yep.
get help from you, rather than being sold to by a salesperson. And if you're a trusted resource already, and somebody recommends you, I'm going to want to learn from you because you probably can help me with the problem that that I have at hand. So,
A
anyways,
hundred
just so
percent.
many different reasons that ties back to the effectiveness of this near bound concept.
Yeah, totally. And I think that we also forget sometimes that, social currency works in all directions. And like for our customers, if we're doing a really great job for them, actually makes them look really good to be able
Hmm.
to recommend that to somebody else in their network.
Yes, I couldn't agree with you more on that one. Um, we have partners. You talked a little bit about the influencer idea, correct?
Uh-huh.
Um, and then the whole idea of nearbound people are right here next to us, that we can take advantage of. How do I bring up that approach someone? Let's go even more basic. How do I approach somebody in my sphere? Or we talked about ways of identifying folks, but is there any other ways I can identify people that are around me, and how do I approach those people? As we were,
Hmm. So, in terms of identifying people around you, I mean, the most powerful tool that we have for this is LinkedIn. There are also a couple of really exciting companies. ComSor is one, who are exclusively focused on helping people and companies tap into the power of their network, and the community that they already have. So, if this is something that you want to go all in on, I would recommend looking at some of those platforms. But everybody has access to LinkedIn. Everybody has their directory in their email, and
hmm.
everyone can just gather your team in a conference room and have everybody spend 20 or 30 minutes writing down everybody in your ICP that they know or have worked with. Just sit down and see how many people they can think of in 20 minutes. That is 100% free and requires zero technology.
Who, not how. Dang it.
And
This
then
is like,
who, not how. And then in terms of how to approach those people, it's going to be really different depending on what the relationship is, and what you know about them. An ideal situation would be, let's say that it's a company that you have, um, it's a company that the person has worked with before. So they kind of know something about the challenges that they're facing. So it could be like, hey, Julia, congratulations on, like, whatever it is that they've done since you worked with them. I remember when we used to go get cold brews, we always talked about how, you know, the pipeline was never accurate, because the reps would wait until the very last minute to realize that the deal wasn't going to close, or whatever problem it is that you solve, you know. I'm sure very few people that are listening can relate to that, but trust me, there are some companies that have that problem.
we all laugh
Um,
because we've been there.
we all laugh because we've been there. And then say, I found this really cool thing, we've been using it. That's kind of what they solve for. I love the contact that I have there. Andres, let me know if you want me to introduce you to him.
Hmm.
I would just make it really as easy as that. Um, I would use the same protocol that you use for any introduction. So, reach out, make it super low pressure, include, an email that the person can forward or the exact wording that you want them to use. And then just make your ask really simple. I mean, basically, you're being an SDR right now. So don't be like, do you have 30 minutes at 10 a.m. or 2 p.m. on Thursday? Like, just be like, worth a chat? Do you want to talk about it more? Like, does that sound interesting? And then see what they say.
Yeah, love it. So these are non-traditional ways, and you find that your clients are succeeding based on the story we talked about it from the
hmm
very jump, right?
I would say that more than half my clients right now are getting the majority of their leads through one or a combination of these strategies. The last one actually that we didn't talk a lot about is influencers, which, um, we're seeing a lot of, like, it's the beginning of the year and I'm seeing so many announcements on LinkedIn, like, I'm a
Mhm.
Chili Piper partner for this year, which is great. And I think that that's going to really help get those platforms in front of a lot more people. Um, and the pushback that I hear about this a lot is, well, Monica, we don't really think that our buyers are on LinkedIn, and they're
Oh,
definitely not on Instagram. We sell to chief information security officers at, like, IBM. Um, so that's not really going to work. And the thing is that an influencer is someone with influence. Social media did not invent the idea of
nope.
influencers. They, again, like, they have always existed. Technology has changed the way that it's certainly, like, broadened the scope of it. But I promise you that these people exist in the industry that you're in if you're listening to this. And usually those people are like, who are the people who are speaking at all the conferences? Who are the people that are the chairman of the industry association? Who are the
Hmm.
people, are you in an industry where there is regulation? Who are the people who are asked to weigh in on that regulation? Who are the people who have a newsletter or a blog that everybody reads, right? Like, let's say that you sell to lawyers. Like, lawyers aren't really on LinkedIn, but are there blogs that cover particular parts of the legal industry? 100 million%, right? Like, there's, like, SCOTUS blog, which is just for people who bring cases to the Supreme Court, extremely niche. If I was
Yeah.
selling to lawyers, I would get in touch with the guy that runs that blog. And so if you, like, just broaden your kind of your universe of possibility of what constitutes an influencer, you can find these people really easily. And then what you want to do is just make them referral partners for you, and work with them in whatever way makes sense. So if they have a newsletter or a blog or some sort of platform, get involved in their platform, sponsor their newsletter, invite them to your client event or your conference that you're doing, invite them on your podcast, become friends with them. It's going to really depend a lot on kind of the person and the way that they want to work. But I would say that if you're not doing that, you are missing out so much, because especially if you're in an industry that is a little bit more niche, I guarantee you that very few other people are doing this right now. And so that means that there is a ton of white space and you are at a massive competitive advantage. And everyone else is going to be like, wow, I wish we had thought of that.
Love this tremendously. I appreciate your input and your insights on this. I feel that there's so many opportunities that lie right in front of our fingertips that we
Hmm.
could take advantage of, and we just need to think different and
Yes.
approach our buyers in a different way. Listen, Monica, if folks want to get in touch with you, they're stoked by the things you shared today. What's the best way for them to get a hold of you?
You can find me on LinkedIn. It's just Monica Stewart on LinkedIn, or you can search for MSP Consulting. That's the name of my company. And if you want to talk about this more, if you want to know how this would work for your company, if you go to my LinkedIn page and you scroll down, there's a little tile right there that says book a call with me, and you can book a one-on-one strategy call for free. Right there on my page, it goes right to my calendar, and we can chat about this more.
Love it. Monica, thank you so much for taking the time to come on the show today.
It's been so great. Thank you so much for having me.
Ooh-wee, I'm gonna be near bounding. I want you guys to go ahead and make sure you connect with Monica. You can find information about her on LinkedIn. Find all the details, get all the scoop. You apply this stuff, and I promise it'll make a world of difference in your approach. I want you to thrive. I want you to succeed. I want you to be the best seller you possibly can be. And the way you're going to go about doing that is actually taking the things that you learn and apply them. When you can apply these principles, it makes such a big difference. You can hear the episode, listen to it, but that doesn't do anything. It comes down to you implementing what you learn. And that's where the magic starts happening. So check out this near botting concept. It's not complicated. You can do it. Anyone can do it. Do it, and you'll find results. That's it. Now, check out LinkedIn as well. Find our LinkedIn prospecting course, thesalesevangelist.com/LinkedIn. Again, thesalesevangelist.com/LinkedIn. As always, I want you to 3 to 5x your sales pipeline. I want you to close twice as many deals, but most importantly, I want you to raise your level of thinking. Go out and do big things. Thanks so much for watching.